Bring in more revenue while saving money and differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack vying to win those guests by becoming more environmentally friendly. We will show you how easy it is and how cheap it can be, if not free, and share all the opportunities available. So join us each week as we take another step along the green path. That's one more step to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack. Proudly sponsored by the Book Direct Show, a green vacation rental conference. Learn more at bookdirect.show. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Green Path podcast. Today, my special guest is Niels Matheson, who will share with us what Minut has done and has planned for their journey along the green path. Hello, Niels. How are you?
Hi, Deborah. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you for coming along. Now, I believe Minut has done some things. They've started their journey along the green path, and also Minut can help managers get going along the green path. So let's start off with Minut. Minut as a company, what is Minut doing? How did the journey start with Minut? And then what are you doing?
Let's wind back. Like Minut's mission has always been to make short-term rentals more sustainable and better in the communities that we work. That was the origin. That's still what we do. But the focus was on making sure that property managers are good neighbors, that we have good relationships, and that we help guests be their best when they're vacationing. So we've always had that sort of sustainability aspect as a very core portion of the business. So it was quite natural then to start taking the next steps in terms of sustainability, not just in the community, but in the world at large. And we have approached it in two ways, and I think almost any company will have to do it in two ways, because there is, of course, the question like, what can Minut do for itself? And especially as a manufacturing company, we make sensors, we ship them across the world. There is a lot we can do there. But the bigger lever is probably what we do with our hosts and property managers in helping to make their businesses more environmentally friendly. And the core here, like the thing that allows Minut to be helpful, is that, of course, we have this unique insight into properties while guests are there, right? So we have a privacy conscious monitoring solution that is mainly intended to be a deterrent for parties. But of course, then we also know when people are in or out. We know how many people are in the property, and we have environmental sensing, so we know what the temperature is and what the indoor climate is. Now, what we started doing earlier this year was that we were leveraging that data in order to control heating and cooling to be a lot more energy efficient. And this came from our customers, especially our larger customers, who mostly rely on our APIs rather than the dashboards. They were using this in order to save money and to make their environmental footprint smaller. And so what we've done now is essentially take that idea and productized it so that it can be available to eventually any host with a smart thermostat or a smart AC.
And so how does that work? Is there sort of like a cap to how hot or how cold you can actually make the air conditioning and the heating?
Yes, that's one part of it, to just sort of set the boundaries. But the most important thing is really that what we unfortunately see often is that guests will come in to a property, they will turn on the AC. They don't want to return to a room that is super hot again. So they leave it running throughout the day when they're on the town. And that is very, very bad for the environment, and it's also costing a lot of money. So what we have done is essentially we can detect when a property is empty, and then we set it in an energy saving mode. And then when the guest returns, we automatically turn it back on. And that way we sort of lower the time that either if it's in a hot climate, the AC has to be on, or if it's in a cold climate, the heating has to be on. And we've seen with customers in Spain that we've saved as much as 250 euros per year. It's a little bit less in climates that are more temperate. And that adds up to over 0.5 ton of carbon dioxide emissions yearly in a typical hotel room.
I know it's a very common thing to do, especially in summertime. You want to come back from the beach to a cool room, apartment, whatever. I know that. Can't you design it in a way that, as a guest, I'm thinking I'm going to head back in an hour. I'll put the aircon on now, so it's cool when I walk in, rather than being on for 6 hours while I'm not in. Is there a way maybe that I can turn it on even half an hour before I'm coming home? I mean, that could be ideal, because I know that there are a few monitoring systems out there that say if the room is empty, it's not on. I don't know if there's any way around it. Like, in the hotel, you stick a business card in there, keeps the aircon on, electricity on. People will try and find a way around it. But is there a way that you can actually give the guest what they want? I mean, I'm not saying, you should do it, but I'm thinking out loud because I'm guilty of that. And if people are doing it, I wonder if there's a way to help the guest and help the owner in terms of that expense.
I think that's a great idea, and that's definitely something that we would consider for the roadmap. I think that giving guests control and letting them tell you what they are intending can, of course, help you control it. If we look at in the consumer space, you have devices like the Nest thermostat, for example, that will try to learn from your behavior as a consumer in your own home, and that is quite effective in private homes. The problem in vacation rentals is twofold. One is that we want to maintain 100% privacy. That means we can't really track your location the way that you might do in a consumer in a consumer application. And the other thing is, of course, like if you're a homeowner, then you're in control. You set up the apps and all of these things. And we don't really want for guests to have to install another app. Like, we want to make sure that experience is as smooth as it can be.
Yeah.
Not saying it's impossible. I'm definitely think we'll get there with some combination of messaging and maybe sort of light apps like a website. And I think that can give us like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think if you did explain, if it is an app or if it is something somehow built in, if you explained the reasoning behind it, I think people will understand the logic of not having the aircon on for 6 hours versus having it on for half an hour.
And you might even give them that option only, right? Like, so turn it on for this amount of time, but not like an indefinite amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. And let them know that there are sensors, if in half an hour you're not there, it's going to go off, or something like that. I mean, you don't want to set rules, but you want to actually make sure the guest understands why you have put this into practice to save not only money, but the planet, and everyone's doing the right thing. And it's not a hard thing to do. It's, let you know when you're coming home. Okay, interesting. I just want to go back to what you're doing. Now, I heard a story about your packaging and where you are having your devices manufactured. So I think this is a very interesting story. Can you tell us that story, please?
Yeah, when we started Minut, the almost the only place in the world where you could manufacture in a like at the volumes that we needed and at the price that we needed was in China. But it's not 10 years ago, but it's more than 5 years ago. And the world has actually changed a lot. And I would say one of the really good things that's happened is that the manufacturing ecosystem is a little bit more distributed than it was. And with more Western manufacturers moving into small volume production, there is also a lot more of them that are sustainably minded and who are willing to work with you on making sure that you're not using materials that aren't good for the environment, making sure that you keep supply chains short to make shipping, etc., more efficient. So about 2 years ago now, we embarked on a journey to go through every step in our supply chain and making sure that each of the suppliers that we picked were eco-friendly and with a like living up to the sort of the certifications and things that you can mostly voluntarily, but still that are out there. And that's everything from, you know, like the plastic and the packaging, but also actually things like our hosting providers and the things that we require to run the services behind the scenes. And yes, packaging was part of that. We have beautiful packaging, and unfortunately, it's not compatible really to have this flashy packaging with a very eco-friendly mindset. And of course, then we would have prioritized the sustainability. So next year, at the very latest, when you are purchasing Minut sensors, they will come in recycled cardboard, and they will also be very snug and slim to make sure that we are not shipping air around the world.
Oh, that's great. Great. Now, in terms of what Minut is doing or is in the process of doing, and in terms of what you offer property managers with your devices, do you push that message? Do you share that message out there?
Towards our property managers?
Yes, just about what Minut is doing. Do you share it with everyone that you are actually walking along the green path? You are making changes within your own business, and you are enabling other property managers to start taking steps too. Do you share that?
Yeah, so we have a customer success team that works especially with our really large customers, and they are doing this almost like on a consultative basis with the largest emitters. For Q3, we're working on a new resource center where we are trying to empower also the smaller hosts to take the same kind of steps, because it can be quite daunting. Like, you know, how do I install a thermostat? Which one should I get? Like, how does it work with my lock and access systems? How can I bring this together? So that is something that we're actively working on. But we are already working with our large customers. We're trying to learn from them, and then we're trying to make it so that everyone, regardless of size, really can benefit from the learnings from the larger companies.
Yeah, that's great. Now, and also within your own office, you're not all working remotely, are you?
We have 2 offices at Minut. We have one in Sweden, and then we have one in London. But it's almost at 50% of the staff is remote now, actually. So as we've been growing, especially in the US, France, Spain, Portugal, more and more of the staff are remote. But yes, we have an office in Sweden. I'm sitting on a desk with recycled wood. Like we are, of course, taking steps here as well.
That's great.
Just the other week, I think one of the things that have been very fun on this journey is how much the whole team has gotten engaged. Just a few weeks ago, one of our engineers came, and he was like, "We're doing all these things, but you know, we're buying coffee from some provider that doesn't seem to have any credentials. So we've even switched out the coffee."
Wow.
To make sure that we are living up to our own ideals.
Yeah, look, Bob Garner had given this analogy of going green as eating a packet of chips. Once you start, you can't stop. There's something else, and there's something else. And when you become aware of something, oh, we should be doing that too. And it's not hard to change a coffee provider, but it all adds up in the end.
It does. It does. I think there's something to that, and also that it's a journey, right? Like,
yes,
this is not something where you check off a few boxes and then you're sort of done. Like, it needs to be part of your mindset. It needs to be part of your design process. It needs to be part of how you prioritize the roadmap and how you work with your customers. So it really needs to be something that is part of the cultural values that you have in the business.
Well, I think what you said before about all of your suppliers, everyone along your supply chain, everyone you deal with is helping you become a little bit more eco-friendly. They're telling you about the materials to make your devices, or telling you about the green way of shipping. Or you don't have to know everything, because your suppliers will also share their knowledge. So it just starts to snowball as you go along the path.
Yeah, when I was at Apple, we had, of course, tremendous leverage over our supply chain, right? Like you could tell a supplier that if you're not living up to the very high bar that we set, then we're not going to buy from you. And that's obviously a very like it's a very, very, very strong method of making your supply chain better. As a very small business, which ultimately all of us are in this universe, it's much harder to coerce your suppliers. But what you can do is you can pick suppliers that are already doing the right things. And I find, like, every time when we look at like specific portions of the supply chain, that there are those who care more and there are those who care less. And it's not so difficult to incorporate that in the decision process. Every time you're probably making a choice with very many parameters, and you need to balance very many different things. Establishing sustainability as one of those parameters that you have to look at next to, value and price and speed and reliability, whatever it may be. It comes quite naturally once you start thinking about it.
Yeah, that's good. And also, I was just going to mention before about the packet of chips. So there was one company that they've worked on their office. The office is sustainable and they don't fly so much, or they offset their carbon when they fly. But they're trying to expand it to the whole building, because they said, well, what's the point of just us being it? We want the whole building to go green. So it's really great. They're trying to convince the whole building. So it's really nice that when you get going, you sort of expand and you look at all the different parts of the supply chain. You look at the whole building that your office happens to be sitting in, and yeah, it does grow with the.
That's a good idea. I'm going to go and knock on some doors here.
Yep, that's great. So are there any other devices that you're working on in terms of sustainability for property
managers? You always want to know the secrets, Deborah. You always want to know the next thing.
Yep.
No, after this we're done. We're not gonna do any more inventions.
Stick with that. Okay. Anything more to add in terms of your journey? So you said you started off with sustainability in mind. It wasn't that someone had their light bulb moment and said we should do this. But is there anything more you should add about your journey or advice to people that haven't taken that first step yet?
One thing I would say is to involve your customers. That to me was like a light bulb moment, if you will, that this is not something that you need to do in isolation, right? Like, the magic really happens when one business can help another, and we can both benefit. So I would look for those types of things, like what can you do as a business that helps someone else, and then you get this very, very nice flywheel going.
That's lovely. That's a lovely message to end on. Niels, thank you very, very much for your time. And I'll pop some links in the comments below, and we'll continue this conversation another time. Thank you very much, Niels.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always great to speak to you, Deborah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.